Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where this thing is, in this situation, fairly stable. So let's go ahead and give this a go here. I would normally say this is going to be a successful attempt, and I'll cut out any unsuccessful ones. Unfortunately, today I do not have time to do that. So for today's episode, we're just going to have to do attempts, and if we don't succeed, well, we'll have to handle that in another episode. So we'll just crank this guy right on around here. Building up more airspeed would, of course, be good. But let's get in position over here. Not quite at the angling that I want it to be. Now, this does naturally nose down, as you can see, but we can counteract that. I'm not too concerned about it. It's not a perfect design, but it is... Ooh. That was exciting. That was very exciting. I'm not sure what happened there, to be honest with you. Okay. Let's bring this guy around. The natural nose down is something that I can definitely work with. Okay. So I guess we'll find out just how much extra time we have. Ooh, hang on. That did not rotate the way it was supposed to. So we're still having that issue where when we're in the middle of a bank, sometimes this thing can do some very strange things. Okay, I'm not entirely cognizant of why that would be. Of course, there's also things like that I'm not entirely cognizant of why that would happen, but, you know, it was recoverable, so it's fine. We do need to build up a bunch of airspeed here, and we need to be working on banking out this way. We don't really have a lot of airspeed at this point of the flight, and so that is where we're slightly concerned here. We need to head out this way. We need to keep in mind, as we're pitching, it defaults to a lower pitch than where we are when we let up. That's what's complicated about flying this. Okay. Okay, here we go. That was one of those situations where, yeah. So when we're both pulling, when we're both pitching and rolling, that's when we run into problems. Okay. So with that understood, we're just going to have to not pitch and roll at the same time. Okay, so let's head around this direction. Don't pitch and roll at the same time. And now let's loop this around. Okay, this is going to be mildly awkward for us, because we're going to need to come in something like this. Like that. Okay. So yeah, do not pitch and roll at the same time with this design. Okay. Yeah, that was my own fault. It nosed down as we were doing that. So we could definitely try to pull this back and adjust the engines back slightly and see if that helps that nose down issue. It might, because that will move the weight back a little bit. So let's try it about at a Z of maybe like 1.6 approximately. And let's see how that feels. Just a very slight tweak there. Okay, so let's go here. But like I said, we're going to have to be doing attempts here this episode just because of timing. I don't have a lot of spare time today to do this off camera, unfortunately. And the episode schedule is unforgiving, so we're just going to head on out over here. We roll it, and we start banking over this direction. Okay, about like that. Yeah, you can see it definitely kicks back quite a lot. And in terms of the nose down, it's definitely still naturally nosing down. That's probably something that we could adjust the canards for, is my guess. But what I really want to do is head off this way. Kind of like that. Ooh, hang on. Okay, it's really awkward that we can't pitch and roll at the same time. It felt a little better there, though. I want to try pulling this back and increasing the lift on the canards. So specifically, what I want to do is I want to pull back the wings over here a little bit on the canards and have it be something a little bit more like that. And then move this guy forward just a smidge. Basically, what we're trying to do is increase the lift right on this front end so that hopefully that doesn't cause us to naturally pitch down quite as much. Let's see if that makes it more stable, but each and every one of these we can make a real attempt on. Okay, that's a physics bug. And it's, without that rudder, I'm going to call that an unrecoverable one. We'll retry that. Okay, let's try this again. Hopefully without the physics bug this time. Okay, a minor physics bug, but not an unrecoverable one. Looks good. And we can try pitching and rolling at the same time here. We can see what happens. But we're going to need to bank it out over this direction. This actually feels a lot better on the nose pitch down. Okay. It's definitely wiggling around a little bit. But that's not shocking. We feel like we have a little bit of lateral velocity here, which is mildly awkward. Okay. Ooh, hang on. That felt bad. Okay. We need to get that under control there. Yeah, we can't go for that. So the issue here is the amount of wiggle that we have. I'm quite convinced on that. See this amount of wiggle that happens when we lower the flaps? I'm quite convinced that that's the issue with pitching and rolling at the same time. Because look at that. That's really strange, right? Like, that is a really weird thing to have it do. No doubt about it. So it might have something to do with the movement speed of the flaps. We can experiment with that. It would be an interesting thing to experiment with, certainly. Okay, let's bring this around over here. I'm fairly content right now with the amount of down pitch. I think that we've got that reasonably well solved. Okay, we were a little too high there. So that is absolutely fine. We can bank this around. It does bank reasonably sharply. But yeah, that main issue right now is just that wiggle. So I think it might well have to do with the flap movement speed. Yeah, you can see there. So let's retry that and pull this back. Let's see if changing the speed of actuation, that is not what I wanted to do. Let's see if changing the speed of actuation on these flaps has anything to do with that. Let's crank that up to 250% on both of these deflection speeds, and let's see what that feels like. Okay, so something like that. It'll be interesting to find out what that feels like for sure. Okay, no physics bug there. I like it. And we just need to hit this spot here. So that is with much faster actuation. But I think that the actual issue here might be that we need slower actuation. So let's bring this around over here. We don't have much airspeed right now. But we can come out of this dive a little bit. Yeah, that seems to have increased the speed of the wiggle a bit. Noted. Yeah. Okay, so let's pull this back again, and let's try taking this to a slower actuation. So that definitely creates some interesting feels. I'm going to put this at 50%, which is half of the original speed, which was 100%. And let's see what that feels like in terms of handling. So I'm not going to attempt to do the run this time. I just want to, well, we're going to crash this thing, almost certainly. And I want to lift it off as soon as we can, as soon as we're generating enough lift. Which should happen... I actually thought it would happen before then. Okay. Well, we have a problem because these are actuating at a different speed as of right now. But see what happens if we try to do both at once? Yeah, this is some exciting stuff right here. So, it puts us in an awkward angle for sure. So doing both at once is definitely bad. The previous design didn't have this issue, for sure. Okay, well, let's just generate some lift and bring this up here. The core issue right now is that these are actuating at different speeds. So let's pull this back real quick. No, we need to undo an exit. And the main issue, of course, is I didn't adjust this, right? So we need to pull this down to 50% and 50%, and I didn't adjust this on the previous one either, on the previous test. Let's actually put all of these back to 250. Okay, there we go. That should be all of the control surfaces actuating together at the very fast speed. So let's see what that feels like in terms of stabilization, because previously we had a significant issue with it, right? And that significant issue is we just build up a lot of wiggle as we're flying. So let's bring this up and over here. Okay. And we'll start banking this right on around, and we'll see what this feels like. That's better. I'm not going to call it good, but it's certainly better. Ooh, hang on. That didn't feel good. That didn't feel good at all. Okay, yeah, so we have a lurching movement to it. I'll show you what I mean. So we're going straight up right now, right? We get going, it's slow, it stalls, and then it pushes through, and then it just goes for it, right? So let's get this loop finished and exit this. So we have a lot of momentum, we push through the momentum, but then look at that. It takes a little while to snap back when we're in this position. And then it just pushes through it, and then it snaps back. It's definitely not ideal in terms of handling. So I want to see what we can do about changing that up. We can try moving the engine back a little bit further here. And this is normally something, like I said, that I would have been doing off camera at this point, and I would have had this figured out. But for now, this is unfortunately what is required. Okay, so we moved the engine a bit back, and the idea behind that is we want the momentum to be closer to the, or rather, not momentum. We want the center of mass to be closer to the vehicle center. This is awkward. However, it's recoverable. There we go. Barely recoverable, but recoverable nonetheless. Okay. So with the engines closer to the vehicle's center, we definitely had low airspeed there. Okay. There's a lot of momentum here, I feel like. Yeah, we've definitely got a fair amount of drift to this. Wow, that didn't actually hit it. Okay. Noted. We need to wait for it to settle. And then, yep, we entered this because I was trying to pitch and roll at the same time. And that is problematic, for sure. So there are a couple of things that we could maybe try to do about that. such as increasing or decreasing our control surfaces. I'm not actually sure. I meant to undo an exit. I'm not actually sure which we need to do. I'm really bad at planes, and we'll get there eventually, for sure. So the idea here is, for now, I'm going to increase our control surface here, and we'll see what that feels like. I'm also going to take this guy all the way out to the edge of the wing, like that. So that'll increase our control surfaces, and we'll see if that gives us any, well, if that gives us anything at all. So we could also put this on lock current heading. That might help as well. That'll mean that it attempts to hold the last inputted heading, and that's probably going to be a good thing for us. Okay, so let's nose this guy up a bit, and that's awkward. That's really awkward. What is it doing right now? Why is it doing it? Okay, this is probably lock current heading causing issues. Yeah, I think that's what that is. So we have more control surface at this point. I'm not convinced that that will actually fix the problem. And we don't have a lot of... Ooh. We are not able to stop this roll here. Okay, that was exciting. We have very little airspeed at this point. That's our core issue right now. So we need to build up our airspeed for sure. And work on nosing this up a little bit. Lack of airspeed is, I think, the biggest issue right now. But ooh. That is an insane amount of roll authority, and that is our core problem. Okay. So the problem comes in when we try to maneuver while we're having those wiggles, right? So I think that this is probably indicative of being over control surfaced. So I want to pull this back and test what it feels like with less control surface. So we pull this guy back to here. We pull this guy back to here. This is where we had it previously. And now I'm going to reduce this by 2 steps. Like that. Okay, let's see what that feels like. Cool. And this is still with having the more rapid movements. The more rapid movements might be bad, and we might want to have them be less rapid. We will see. Okay, so we have some amount of... Okay, we are not nosing up here. We are just nosing down. So that's a core issue, and that core issue is indicative of our mass balance being off. So that is fine. Let's take a look at what we've got here. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, so our mass is currently slightly behind our center of lift. Let's move this guy back forward to about here, and you can see our mass moves slightly in front of our center of lift. Okay, so let's see what that does exactly. And we may end up moving these guys to be even further forward. And moving the canards up, perhaps. Or biplaning the canards. That could be kind of funny. Okay, so you could argue that this is just indicative of not enough control surface, and that's the argument that we could certainly make. But I'm going to argue that the actual core issue here is the fact that we... Hang on, undo that. Is the fact that we are nosing down at all, right? So I'm wondering what happens if we put the engines up here. I would expect that this is going to cause us to nose down more. We get rid of the canards for right now. Again, I expect this to cause us to nose down more because it means our mass is more front-loaded and we're no longer generating lift at the front. But I want to see what exactly this does. So let's run a quick test here. And we're going to want to build up as much airspeed as we can before we take off. Yeah, so we're definitely nosing down more, and that's what I expected to see. Now, if we pull this back, and we move the engines to the back now, like so, what are we expecting to see then? Well, we're expecting to see some form of natural nose up, or at least a reduction in the natural nose down. Okay, so let's proceed here. I would prefer to have the engines in the back like this. This is definitely ideal. We can put canards up front again if we feel it's necessary. That doesn't feel like that changed the amount of nose down in the slightest, to be honest with you. Are we inverted? Hang on. Are we inverted again on what our control surfaces are doing? Sometimes these invert on us, and I'm not sure where that comes from either. Again, I'm nowhere near as used to planes as I am to rockets. Planes are far more complex beasts, as far as I'm concerned. Hi, physics bug. Okay, well, we'll redo that. So what we're trying right now is to see if we are currently reversed on what our control surfaces are doing. They might be. I've noticed them fluctuating in the past. Okay, no physics bug. That's good. And let's head off here. Okay, we're going this way. Yeah, look at this. So our control surfaces are actually inverted at this point. So we're able to nose up like that. What happens if we roll and pitch at the same time? Seems like it's just fine. Okay. So, what is the natural state? Let's get this in fairly level flight. Natural state is definitely a nose down. Okay. So at this point, what happens if we put the canards back, but we put them on top? So that would mean that we would want to come in, hang on, parts, and we'd want to come in here and put in a wing. And we'd want to flip this around, obviously, and drastically reduce the size of it. I wouldn't want to have a control surface on it, ideally, and we would need to flip it around, as I said, so we would need to go this way with it. And then we'd want to move it up top, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mirror this, and we're going to move this guy forward here to be about there, and then move it not like that. I want to move it forward and then move it up to be around there or so. And just join it together, something kind of like this. Now we're a little bit angled awkwardly, and that means something. Hang on. We need to change our angle step here to like 5 and have it be something like that. So that will, in theory, generate us some additional lift up at the front, with the idea being that that is supposed to, and I want to try moving this guy apart a little bit, about like that, I guess. The idea here is that that will lift our nose. I don't know if that'll actually happen or not. Let's find out. We're just experimenting for science at this point. Now, there are no control surfaces on that. So the question is, does that provide us any amount of stabilization, or does that increase the amount of wiggling that we have? And does that lift or lower our nose? Well, we're about to find out. Oh, okay. That is, I think, a little too much lift there, then. Yeah. So it's very clear that that did not help. So let's get rid of those for now. And that natural nose down, we can also adjust the hemisphere here. We can remove some weight from this by removing the fuel from that. I was using that to pull our center of mass forward somewhat, but we can take a look at what that's done here. So our center of mass is currently slightly behind our center of lift. And let's see what that has done to our nosing. And for the record, I will save this plane once we get it into a reasonable working state. That is definitely something that will happen. And also, our airfoils may still be inverted. We'll see. Okay. Yep, they are still inverted. Ooh. Okay. That's not great. That's not great at all. Okay. That's very bad. We're going to pull that back. And I think it's clear that we need that weight up front. So that is reasonably fine. Although maybe we don't need all of the weight up front. So we could keep the fuel here. And how much dead weight can we put in? 7.18 tons. Oh, wow. We can put a lot of dead weight into that. For now, I'm going to have this be at about 50% fuel. And let's see what that feels like. So we know at 100% fuel, it had a slight nose down, but it was a controllable nose down. So let's put in only 50% fuel this time, have a physics bug, and have to restart it. Okay, cool. I really wish they would fix that bug. Okay. Let's give this a go, and we're just checking to see what our nosing looks like. Cool. So we're just going to steer this out over a little more towards the center here. Okay. Natural nosing is nosing down. It is definitely manageable. It doesn't have a huge amount of wiggle to it. I believe that was probably caused by the canards. We need to invert our controls because they're the wrong way. And that's going to be confusing for me, for sure. Just like that. I attempted to nose up, and we nosed down instead. Okay, yep, same thing there. I attempted to nose up, and we nosed down. So that definitely needs to be inverted. That is a manageable flight profile, I feel like. I want to try this at, like, 25% on the fuel. We'll just continue trying to find the exact point where this needs to be, but that's going to happen off camera. The next time we run this, we're going to successfully run the route, so that should be reasonably fine. At least I hope we're going to. Assuming my time is okay tomorrow. It should be. We'll see. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse Xenocyte, Hiro Marutsu, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.